Before I go into my actual presentation, I would just like to take up my own position in relation to one Malaysia, two Malaysia, but one Malaysia. Personally, I reject that concept and that notion, mainly because, one, it is derived from a public relations exercise process from the top. It is not from the people. The people have not defined that one Malaysia, and that's why I agree with Prof. Shamsul on that. And so I cannot accept that. It becomes very hollow. It becomes meaningless. And therefore, at this point in time, it's not something that can be accepted. And so it has become so much of a public relations exercise. At the end of the day, you have from Tai Hong saying one biscuit to, everyone stating that they are the only one. Yeah, and that's how it has become to be. Now, within the Malaysian context, it's important for us that what are we wanting to achieve? And you've already heard that within our multicultural realities and political manipulations, what is best? Yeah, I think you need to put both together. It's not just the multicultural dimensions and realities that we experience every day at the ground level, but how do political manipulations bring about challenges and experiences within our daily lived lives? Now, some civil society groups have had discussions on the whole area of racial discrimination and so forth, and there has been a proposal for Race Relations Act. Now, will this be good for the current realities, or is it limiting? I will raise this later. Now, therefore, should not our discourse be wider, more comprehensive, inclusive, and integrated within a global reality? And this is where I would also like to say that within the whole context of globalization, the nation state is actually being challenged in the North. And that's why you see a lot of conflicts coming through. That's why you see walls being built against immigrants coming in, because that concept, that nation state experience is being challenged. Even national sovereignty is being challenged, where capital is allowed to enter and plunder and not made accountable. Taking that as the FDIs are so important for our development, that the state sells its nation off. And that is indeed a very worrisome process in the context of globalization. Now, the conflicts, one of the main areas of conflicts is the conflict of stigmatization and identity that we talk about. And I would like to raise the issue of our ICs and our passports as the thing for identity. Now, we all value our IC and our passports when we travel. But when it comes to holding the migrant worker's passport, it's fine. I, as an employer, have the right to hold the passport. But haven't you removed the identity of that person to one who must be subordinate? And therefore, this form of discrimination brings about the stigmatization. And it's not just one level, it's multi-layered. As a person, as a worker, yeah, as a migrant, as an Indonesian, as a Sabahan, so you have what we call multi-layered process of devaluation that takes place, and therefore the stigmatization that comes and the inequalities consequently sharpen in this whole process. Now, I was quite happy that Shamsul raised the question of, in our very homes, domestic worker. Now, as workers also, we are discriminated and divided. And one of the most group or sector that is really devalued is the domestic worker in our very homes. The labor law defines her as a servant, not as a worker. And what does this mean? It means it creates a master-servant relationship, and that is of a master-slave relationship. And that's why we have all these problems coming where we have domestic workers not paid. We have, this year, out of the 61 cases we handled of Cambodian domestic workers, 40% was sexually abused. What does that mean? It goes back to me, the slavery times that took place, that you are in total control and you are subordinated. You have no voice. And I think this is the value system that is being evolved and developed in our society, that we have children who say that violence is okay. You can beat your domestic worker. It's okay to be violent because you've seen the mother, the father, and that's very worrying. And that leads to aspects of how we develop relationships, and therefore anyone who can be subordinate to you, you can control and you can use violence, which continues discrimination. Similarly with refugees, the legal framework does not recognize them as refugees, and therefore they are seen as undocumented migrants, and therefore open to arrest and detention. And these are refugees who have fled from persecution, who have fled to save their lives, to seek sanctuary in our country, and we turn around and say, no, we don't recognize you. And because of that, there has been abuse, there has been extortion, there has been recently, I came out in the media to say how taxi drivers beat them up when they take the taxi, extort the money. Now, this form of discrimination, we think it will only be for them. No, it will also come to us sooner or later. And so this aspect of exclusion is one dimension that creates the division and discrimination within our country. And therefore, as people, we become unequal, stigmatized, discriminated, and criminalized. And I think these are important components to bear in mind. And so, the legal policy framework, which yesterday we already had some ideas put forward, contains significant gaps and limitations. Now, we know yesterday we already heard from the chair of SUHAKAM. Malaysia has not ratified many human rights treaties.